All right, welcome back to the channel. I'm going to try making this little tutorial pretty short. I just wanted to review sending RPCs and why they're important with Pun 2 from Photon Engine for multiplayer games. So I have this little game that I built. It's not even really a game. It's just got a little capsule representing the player. So this one's already running. I'm going to run it in the editor too. And so once it connects, it's going to instantiate the player. So player 1 is here, player 2 is here. If we look, we got both players here. If I look at this player, we go to the Photon view, and this is not owned by the editor, but this one over here is owned by the editor. So this is mine. So if I go to the Playmaker window, the only logic I have is when I click fire, it's going to activate his hat. Okay. So this one here on the right is mine. So what I'm trying to do is I'm going to click, and it's going to activate his hat. So what happened? Both players put on their hats. Well, the reason both players put on their hats is both users are using the same player game object from the resources folder that has this logic on it. So it doesn't matter that it was instantiated, that it's my player or not. They're both on my machine. I created... my computer created these objects, even though technically over the network it was created by someone else. When I click, all the logic on both of these players is going to run. But if you look at the other player, they didn't get the same results. So my actions don't get transmitted to the other players unless you're using something like a transform view, to where when you're moving a player around, it automatically shows it to everybody else. If I click here, it's going to do the same thing, though, where the hats get activated, but it's not changing the view. So we're going to do something instead where we're going to... first, I only want to do it if it's mine. How about that? All right, so I don't want the action to happen unless it's mine. We'll start there. So if I come here, there's my stuff. I'm just going to create a new state. Pretty much any time you want to do something on any multiplayer player, any logic you put on it, you want to have some type of is mine. You can just have like a global FSM that checks for is mine, and if it's mine, then you activate all the other FSMs, or you can put is mine state at the start of each FSM and check if it's yours or not. I kind of usually do a mixture of it. So if it's mine, it's mine. If it's not mine, what I do is I usually disable the FSM. Okay, so I'm going to right click and make this my start state. So if it's mine, I'm going to come back over here and do that. Let's just move. All right, and if it's not mine, control click and drag. And we're just going to disable the FSM. Okay, so now if we enable FSM, disable it on the owner, whoops, activate hat. Okay, so now I'm going to build and run this. Okay, so it's already run, and I accidentally clicked, so it's already... Oh, no, it didn't run. All right, so here we are. Let's see. This player on the left, player 1, it's owned not by the editor. This is the one owned by the editor. So if I click, it's already said this is mine, and so it's ready for me to activate my hat. So now if I click, boom, now the hat's only showing up on my game object, but not on the other, because the other one's owned by the other player. You can see the FSM has been disabled. But if I go look at the other player's view, they're not seeing me with my hat on. If they click, their hat turns on, but I'm not seeing that their hat turns on. Why not? Well, we got to tell the other players any change we make to the scene. It doesn't happen automatically. So that we have to use RPC calls for that. So if I go back into my player now, okay, so if it's mine, I'm going to activate the hat. If it's not mine, I'm not going to disable the FSM anymore. I'm just going to say not mine, and this is just going to be empty. So now if I want to activate the hat, I'm going to broadcast an RPC. Now I can go ahead and activate my hat here, or I can make myself receive the same RPC. So what happens if we just broadcast an RPC? So think of broadcasting an RPC as a megaphone saying, hey, other players, I've made this change, and then they all make the same changes on their machines. So we can choose RPC targets all, which I am, or I can choose others, or I can keep it on all and change this to exclude self. All right, but I'm just going to do others because I'm already activating it on myself. I don't need the others to activate. So let's keep it on others. I don't need to tell myself. And then the remote event, we're going to say, we're just going to call it hat and no string data. Okay, so now that we send the event, we need something to happen when we receive the event. So here in the same FSM, I can add a state that is just called receive. Actually, that's not it. For something like this, let's do it in a different FSM. So let's go ahead and keep this as disabling this. Because when you receive an RPC, it can take you out of order. So let's say I haven't turned on my hat, but if I receive an RPC, it's going to get me out of whack there. So let's just do it anyways. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add a state. And we're going to add a global transition for hat. Okay, let's make sure the event is global. It is. Okay, because that's the RPC that we're sending. And so if we receive hat, well, then we want to activate the hat. Right? And then when we're done, just so that we stay in the mix here, we're going to come back here and check if it's mine again and do all the same stuff. But we're not disabling the FSM. All right, so I'm going to build and run that. Save. Got to make sure I have the other one closed. And build and run. All right, so I have them both running now. So let's see what happens when I'm going to use this other client. Whoa. That was weird. I'm going to use this other client. I'm going to click here instead of in the editor this time. So I'm just going to click. And what you might think is this player here, because I think this is player 1 right now, will turn on its hat, and it'll tell all the other players that it's turning on its hat. So the other players should see that my hat's on. Okay? But that's not what happened. Why not? So my machine looks fine, but the other player's machine, not fine. And the reason mine looks fine is because whenever I broadcasted the RPC, I didn't send it to myself. So I didn't receive it again. But what happened with everybody else is they received hat, and now everybody's putting their hat on. Oh, someone said put a hat on? Let's put a hat on. That doesn't work. Whenever we send an RPC that says, hey, turn on the hat, we should be responding back, whose hat? Okay, otherwise everyone's going to put their hat on. So we need to know whose hat is getting put on. So if we go to project, go to the player, we need to know whose hat it is. So now before I send this RPC, I want to set event string. And I also want to get owner, photon view, get owner, actor number. Okay. So before I send this RPC to everybody, I want to know the actor number of the user who owns this game object. Okay, so we're just going to save it as actor. And then in the string data, I'm just going to convert this, because it's an integer, it's going to convert it to a string. And then now down here, when we broadcast the RPC, we're going to say who the actor is. Okay, set events, data, string data. Oh, we don't need that because the string data could be right there. Yeah, so we got to get the actor number, and then we can just right here convert it string data. Okay. So then when we receive it, we need to get event string data. So when it gets this event, this callback happens, we want to get what data comes with it. Okay, this is actor again. I'll get you some more in a second, baby. I'll call this actor received. So we get the event string data, and then we want to this is why RPCs are a little bit complicated. So we also want to now, again, get owner actor number. And we'll just store this as actor. Okay, it seems like we're double dipping, but we're not. So we're getting the person who said hat, we're sending their actor number in the RPC. And everybody else is now saying, okay, I got hat, but whose hat is getting put on? So that's what we're finding here. And so on every other player's computer, like you can have 4, 5, 6 players, you have all these identical players in your hierarchy, and now I need to find out, okay, is this the person that sent the RPC? So we have that actor. Now we're going to do a string compare. So we know who sent it. We know who owns this one. And now we're going to see if the person who sent it also owned this one. And if that's the case, then we're going to do this. So we're going to compare actor received to convert actor. And if it's not equal, since I already have the activate game object here, I'm going to leave it there. So if it's not equal, I'm just going to put not equal. No, I'm going to change this to just finished. So what'll happen is if those aren't equal, it's just going to bounce out before it has the chance to activate the game object. All right, hope you're with me. Let's save and build a run again. Okay, so my player 1 is this little window, and then my player 2 is here. So let's look at player 2. I'm just going to click. Boom, hat is on. Let's see what the other player sees. The other player also sees the hat is on, because what happened was me and the editor calls out, put the hat on, and I say, put the hat on this player that is owned by this player. So this player game object that is owned by this actor. And so that's how it knows which one of these should put the hat on, because every single game object that is the same, right? All the player game objects are essentially the same. They're all in your resources folder. Sure, they might have different avatars, different colors, different weapons, different clothes, but when their main player root is usually always the same. And so when that RPC is sent, if they all have the same FSM, or even if they're different FSMs, but they have the same RPC call here, you gotta be careful with that. We need to know who sent the call. So that's what you're doing here, is you get the actor number of who's sending it, include it in the RPC. When the RPC is received, you're going to get that string data. You're going to get the owner of who owns this FSM you're in now and compare them. And if they're same, you're going to do the logic. So you could essentially do this for everything. Somebody in my Discord asked, how could we change a player's audio source with Photon Voice to go from 2D to 3D? And let's pause and see if we can get that to work. So I really quick, in my scene, I put the voice manager. I forgot to do some stuff. So log level errors. Well, this should already be set up because I copied it from my other things. So that should all be set up. So here I have an empty game object that I added the voice speaker on. And we're going to start it to be, its spatial blend to be 1. So full on 3D. So now if we come back over here, let's just say when we put on our hat that we're going to change our spatial blend. I'm just going to lock this. So let's come over here, and I'm just going to be lazy, and I'm just going to grab this audio source, and I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to, let's see, audio. I don't think I can do it. Let's set property, and let's find spatial blend. All right, and let's set it from, it's already at full 3D, but let's make it go down to 0 for 2D. So 3D means that it's positional audio. So the further you are from the player, the quieter they get. I'm not going to mess with any of these because the way I'm doing my demo, we're not going to be able to hear it, but we should be able to see the values here. So we're going to set this property on myself, but I also, if we come over here, when we activate our hat, I also want to do the same thing and set the spatial blend to 0. So if we now back out, and if we go build and run. Okay, so here, this is going to be a little bit difficult because we don't have an editor in both, but I'll start over here. All right, so I just clicked. So this is my player. My player started out with spatial blend all the way over to 3D, and I also made it easier to see. So player 2 is my player here, so I just had them rename themselves and I instantiated. So here we can see that I set my spatial blend to 0, which we're not going to be able to see here just yet. But if I go to my speaker I can see my spatial blend is now at 0. But duh, because I told that to myself locally. But what if the remote player does it? So if I look at the other player, and I look at their speaker, I can see currently their spatial blend's at 0. So if they put on their hat, will I see that spatial blend go down to, I'm sorry, is that 1? Will it go down to 0 for 2D? So if the other player clicks, boom, spatial blend 2D. So RPC calls can be used for everything. You just have to remember that when you send an RPC, you also have to say who that RPC needs to apply to. Now, sometimes RPCs you want to be applied to everybody. But most of them, you're saying things like, I'm jumping. Okay? So you say, hey, I'm jumping. You don't want all the players on your view to jump because you press jump. You're going to send an RPC, and you're going to say, just this avatar is jumping. All the other ones will receive the string of the actor that owns it, and then string compare, and then do the logic. So I hope this helps some folks who are struggling with RPCs. I also have a whole video on making a chat room out of RPCs that might also help you understand a bit more about RPCs. So I'll try to link that below as well. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.